Hello, this is Mikey with another After Effects tutorial. Today we're going to be creating this variable blur. Now this is a camera lens blur, and you can see that it adjusts the blur fall off based off of this mask I have on this footage layer. And there's a really neat trick to do that in order to rig it up. Now this tutorial is sponsored by brand new website, Element Supply Company. This is a project that I'm involved with several other makers and tutorial creators like myself. If you go check it out, you'll see lots of different products and tools available for After Effects. Now quickly, before we get into the tutorial, I want to show off a sneak peek of a new tool that is going to be released on Element Supply Company. So this new tool, no, it's not this over here in the corner that I've been teasing a little bit here and there. I'll get to that one later. This one's called Nimble Nimbus, and it's a cloud generator. And you can see right here, it just creates these nice little clouds. And it's all built off of text layers. And I can come in and I can adjust the cloud length, the scale, how big the cloud is. I can add some slant to it. Instead of show you all the controls and these kind of things like that, I'll get into a more in-depth tutorial on it later. How about here's a few examples created by Andrew Embury, one of the partners at Element Supply Company, and one of the examples is also from myself. All right, let's get to the tutorial. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete that mask, and I'm going to delete my other layer and delete the camera lens blur. So right now, all we have is this piece of footage, and this is a really easy rig to set up. But it's quite powerful once you have everything working the way it needs to. So how this works is I'm going to create a new solid. So layer, new solid, and let's make that black. Now on this, I'm just going to just create a mask. Doesn't really matter what it looks like because I'm going to change that later. And then let's add an effect to this. Under Effects, Channel, Solid Composite. And what this does is it creates a new solid layer, basically. And composite is it beneath your other layer. So what we have here is now, a black and a white composite. So, but what's cool about this is if I come into the mask settings, let's just let me show you. I can change the feather, and you can see it's not feathering or blurring any of the white. It's just this black solid, and then the white behind it is just filling that in. Okay, so now that we have that set up, what I want to do is I'm going to take this layer, let's bring it down to the bottom, and in my original layer, I'm going to draw a mask. And again, it doesn't matter what it looks like because we're going to change it later. So let's just draw a mask around the nose. And I'm going to come into this mask, and this is where we're going to start linking stuff up. So I have the mask path, the feather, opacity, and expansion, and let's just take all of those and of the black solid, and we'll link it to all of these settings on the mask on top of this footage. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and lock that footage and even hide it away. And I'm going to come in and add the mask of none to this layer so that mask doesn't show up. It's just basically a controller mask. So now let's add to this a blur. Now you can do a camera lens blur or you can do a compound blur. The camera lens blur is going to look a little nicer, but it's going to take more processing power. So, and in the layer map of the blur map, let's go down and pick that black solid and make sure you have it from source to effects and masks. And you can see what happens here. Well, okay, edge behavior. Let's repeat the edge pixels, and let's just blur this. And you're thinking, well, why don't I just use an adjustment layer and mask it out? Well, it's not quite the same thing, because what happens here is as I adjust this with the feather tool on the mask, you can see it's not just fading out the blur, but it's adjusting how much blur from that line to that line. So 0 blur where this line is right here, all the way to 100% blur where that is right there. And because of that, we can do some cool stuff. We can come in and we can adjust this blur so it's only where we want it. And we have a nice soft fall off as well. Now this is really kind of extreme, but we can come in and even continue to add points. Maybe give some of the ground not blurry. Go back to the feather tool. And if you know how to use just the variable feather tool, then this is all pretty natural. Let's bring down that blur radius so it's not so intense. And you can see fairly quickly, let's add some just basic feather. You can see fairly quickly I was able to mimic kind of this tilt shift look using this setup. So let's quickly go over what we did, because this was a quick tutorial, but again, once you have it set up like this, it's really quite powerful. So on the layer itself that we want to be affecting, we have a mask that is set to none, and then we have the camera lens blur. Now we have another layer, and on that layer it's a black solid with a solid composite of white behind it. And this is the mask that is creating this depth map. And so what we have is the path, the mask path, the feather, opacity, expansion, all of those mask tools are then connected through expressions to the mask on the layer that we are looking at. And what this does is it allows us to use this mask that is set to none. Doesn't really do anything, but we can use it to control the mask on this other layer, which we are then linking to in the camera lens blur. So it creates this almost illusion that we're using the mask to create this depth, and we are. It's driving it, it's just we're using 2 layers. So I hope that was useful to you. I would love to see what you come up with this, because doing variable blurs like this is not something that's really easy to do in After Effects. And creating a rig like this to be able to just go in here and just like mask it out and put the blurs exactly where you want them is really powerful. And again, we can even keyframe this mask and move it around and animate it. So thank you so much for watching. And again, if you haven't done so, check out Element Supply Company. Go sign up, subscribe to be notified when we put out new products, just like Nimble Nimbus, this cloud generator. I think you're going to love it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.